Ooh,
Hey Yaz, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Really good. I just want to say this is the first ever podcast that I've done on video. I know it's something I've been meaning to do for a long time. I've done a few lives, but this is the first time I've done a video one. So it's a pretty big deal, especially if it's episode number 50. So yeah, it's a pretty big
I
milestone. I'm pretty
am
happy.
I'm so honored. Thank you for inviting me on. I'm so excited to be here.
No, it's my absolute pleasure. And I think it's pretty fitting that it's like I've got you and you're like really good at marketing and stuff because this is like a pretty big step for me in the marketing space, like growing the podcast brand, going over video. So I think a good first question for me to ask is, I guess, yeah, how did you get started? Like, what do you do and how did you get started in the whole marketing game?
Yeah, sure. So I am a marketing professional and I also run my own marketing agency called Yaz. How I got started, it's a long story. But if we go back to when I was a kid, I always was business minded. My dad was an entrepreneur. I always had a knack for getting involved with his business ventures. I knew I wasn't a typical Iranian and I wasn't going to go down that doctor or lawyer route. And so I knew I wanted to pursue business. So going to university, I studied management with international business, and I really took a liking to my marketing modules, the work I did around marketing, ads and advertising, that kind of thing, markets and consumption, just came really naturally to me. And they were the modules that I excelled in the most. And alongside that, with my dad's businesses, I got involved with the marketing side, taught myself graphic design at the age of 16. And I kind of just did that as a hobby. And it was only until I graduated that I thought, oh, where do I go with a management degree? Because there are so many
Yeah.
different routes you can take. Um, and I actually fell into working into tech. And I slowly progressed and moved into the marketing department of a tech company, which is also what I do still today. Um, and as time has gone on, I've just like done online learnings and sort of taught myself different marketing skills. And then I launched a marketing business.
Yeah, I mean, and how long ago was that where you launched the marketing business?
Um, just over 2 years now, 2.5 years.
Yeah, I mean, and it's seen pretty decent growth, right? Like it's come quite a long way since for 2 years, I'd say, right?
Yeah, so it was funny. I actually started my business because I had a lot of family friends and friends who were older running their own businesses, but they didn't really have any marketing expertise and they didn't know who to go to and they had very little budget. So naturally, through my dad, they turned to me for marketing help and I'd help them here and there. And then I thought, you know what? I've actually got a knack for this. There's a demand for it, so I might as well pursue it as a
Yeah.
business. And I'm really lucky that from those two, three clients, I've grown my business now and I've worked with over 260 clients today, which is amazing.
Wow. Wow, that's a lot of clients in 2 years. That's pretty crazy.
Yeah, a lot
Yeah,
of
that's like
coffee.
yeah. Like you were voice noting me, and you're like, yeah, I've literally spoken. I've been on like 10 different or 20 different Zoom calls since like this morning. I was like, 20 Zoom calls. How do you fit in 20 Zoom calls? I'd actually go mental. I hate Zoom calls so much. Like, I know this is a video podcast, but I hate like Zoom calls that are just like irrelevant or they just don't really say much. There's like typical corporate ones. Um,
Yeah,
so
I
yeah, the Zoom
do.
fatigue is real.
Yeah, I do obviously prefer in person, but with the global pandemic, everything's virtual now. So I've learnt to love
Hmm.
Zoom.
Yeah, I mean, okay, so you first got started, I guess, with the clients from, I guess, your family friends or like from your dad, right? Um, so like what sort of stuff were you helping them out with?
It was mostly graphic design bits. So, designing flyers, brochures. A lot of them were restaurant businesses or in hospitality. And a lot of them actually didn't have the infrastructure to even have a website. So I actually helped build websites from scratch for them with the help of my dad, and I learned through him as well. And I sort of took that on and I've educated myself through YouTube and various
Yeah.
courses online.
That's so cool. So I guess from there you kind of learn, so you went from graphic design. When was the kind of step to graphic design to, I guess, more social media stuff that you do now?
Um, I think naturally, as a millennial entrepreneur, I've grown up in the digital age, so I know social media very well. I mean, I spend
Mm,
my days on Instagram, back in the day on Facebook, and so naturally, I've learnt to jump onto new social media apps that come into the market. For example, Clubhouse is a new one that I'm loving as well. Um,
mm,
and it was only over the last year, maybe. Just before the global pandemic that I really started to push social media in my business, because I saw that that digital shift for businesses was vital more than ever now than it was before.
mm. So would you say now you work more, I guess, with brands that want to prioritize their social media rather than, I guess, brands that want to prioritize more, I guess, offline marketing and those sort of things?
Yeah, definitely. I think there's been a massive like shift in business in general. I mean, for example, brick and mortar businesses now, um, having a shop on the high street isn't enough.
Mm,
And I think making that shift online, whether it's a Facebook page or an Instagram account or Twitter or a YouTube channel, I think it's so crucial to get that wider reach.
mm,
Whereas businesses before used to rely on like door to door sales and
yeah,
word of mouth, which is how I started as well.
yeah.
But I've seen as well, growing my own business, that it's so crucial to have that digital presence. And that's how I've grown my business and my client base as well through social
Mm.
media.
I think a huge mistake that a lot of, I guess, brands that don't really know how they should take the first steps when it comes to social media, because I guess a lot of brands who have been around for a while, but then kind of they want to target a younger audience now, and they kind of feel like they have to prioritize social media. A big mistake I've seen with a lot of them is that they kind of try to do every social media platform. So
Yeah,
they try to do like Instagram, they try to do Twitter, they try to do Facebook, they try to do like even TikTok and Insta Reels and stuff. And it's like you shouldn't do everything. You should just do the ones where your audience are. That's like a big thing. So
yeah,
I guess for you, when a brand comes to you who's like a bit lost when it comes to social media, and like, I want to give value to the audience as well. A lot of the brands, a lot of the people who are listening to this, they're probably thinking about starting a brand, and they want to go to TikTok because they see it's like a growing trend at the moment. But at the end of the day, growing trend doesn't equate to your audience being there, if you see what I mean. So I guess for you, when upcoming brands come to you, what's the first sort of steps that you take to kind of like, yeah, what do you kind of do, and what do you say to them?
yeah. You've made very valid points, and it's actually something that I say to my clients on a daily basis as well. Don't try and do every platform out there. That's not the
Mm,
key or the right ingredients to being successful online. What I tend to do with my clients is really first understanding their target audience, their niche, their ideal buyer persona. So, who is their ideal client? What is their age, their demographic, location, spending habits? All these things, I really break it down with the client. A lot of more well established businesses, such as like small businesses, they already know those sort of things, so I then guide them to the right platforms that they should be on. But for the startups and the entrepreneurs looking to start a business but don't really know where to go, that's
mm.
normally the starting point that I take.
Yeah, I think that's really valuable, and yeah, that's something that I'm working through at the moment. Like with my brand now, is trying to, I guess, pinpoint the customer persona, and trying to pinpoint, yes, the demographic, and I guess all the sort of traits that make them who they are. So like age, spending habits, like job, even like gender, right?
Yeah,
But like even beyond that, it'd be good to kind of work out more, I guess, what's going on in their minds. So what's going on in terms of what their motivations are, what their key goals are, what do they want to do in 5 years' time, like how driven they are, stuff like this. Like what do they like, what do they dislike? that Learning all of that stuff really allows you to kind of narrow down your marketing strategy to make it more granular and to make it like more targeted.
yeah,
So that's what I'm working through at the moment. So I think for like new brands, that sort of advice from you is really valuable. Just know your customer really. But I guess from there, what's the sort of like I guess from there, do you kind of match the social media platform to that demographic?
Yeah, well, it's always something that I advise. So, for example, if you're a fashion brand, I'd probably advise you to launch on TikTok and Instagram. Um, for those of you familiar on TikTok, there are so many fashion brands out there that do like transformation videos, try on
Mm,
hauls, that kind of thing, behind the scenes of like producing the clothing. So I think that really works well for people to buy into the brand, especially if it is in the fashion industry. Whereas other businesses, let's say restaurants, they usually tend to live on Facebook. So I do try to give those recommendations and steer them in the right way. But at the end of the day, it's the choice of the client. But as
mm,
you said, don't try and do every single social media platform out there
yeah.
because you're just going to spread yourself thin. And at the end of the day, the quality of the content you're putting out there is key. So you don't want to do everything and have poor content. You want to do less but more.
That's really good advice. That's really, really good advice. And I guess for like, I think this is something maybe that people don't really think about, but for some businesses, it doesn't really make sense, I would say, to focus on a lot of different social media platforms because, say, for a restaurant, for instance, even if they grow their social media following, massively, that doesn't like benefit because they're bound by geographical location,
Yeah,
really. Like, so I guess for them, it is quite difficult. So there are sort of limiting factors for certain businesses. Obviously, you can say like if they grow a following, then it allows them to kind of, I guess, grow to a different location or whatever. But it's a bit more slow. So I guess you have to really look at the brand itself, right? Like you have to look at, I guess, the nuances of that specific brand, not just their customer, but in terms of scalability, what works for them.
yeah. I mean, I feel like you should come onto my team. You're great with all things marketing.
I've just learned this stuff. Like I'm very new to it, really. But yeah,
No,
I've just
you're
like learned this stuff.
great. You're saying all the right things. Yeah, geographical location definitely comes into play. Um, I think that's also one of the reasons why I don't have a box sort of package that I
Mm,
sell on to clients. I really focus on having a personalized and tailored experience. So every client, I'll sit down and pick out every single aspect of their business, um, see what works, what doesn't work, what's going on in the market, what competitors are doing. And I really go to that granular level because one box idea doesn't work for every brand. Every brand is different. Um,
mm,
so that's something that is a big part of my business is that tailored,
mm.
customized package.
What do you see as, I guess, the most exciting social media trends, or like what's going on in the market now that genuinely excites you as I guess a person in the industry?
Oh, great question. To be honest, it's really funny to see the different social media platforms trying to one up one another,
Yeah,
which is
so
definitely the
true.
case with TikTok and Instagram. So, for example, TikTok is a video and audio based platform. Now, Instagram has introduced that to their platform by introducing Instagram Reels. Then, TikTok introduced Instagram Lives, which is something that Instagram does. So, they're constantly trying to do the same thing to become the one key app in the
Mm,
market, sort of like monopolize the market. So,
mm,
um, that's something that's always interesting and great to jump on as a trend. You hear marketing managers or marketing experts saying jump on reels on Instagram. And I think the best way is to notice these shifts or changes in the market and jumping onto them because that's what's
mm.
going to blow up your reach and engagement. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I think that answered your question. I'm not sure.
Yeah, but I guess for like new brands or people who are pretty good with, I guess, strategy side or like starting something, or I don't know, product development, but marketing is very new to them. It can be like pretty confusing, right? Because not only is it like a very new world, but it's also a very fast paced and evolving world. Like, as you're saying, TikTok exists now, but then Instagram Reels comes along and kind of, takes a bit of market share from them and it offers like a different thing. And then you got like YouTube, who's also introduced like short form video as well. So
Yeah,
I guess for like new brands, it is a bit of a minefield at the end of the day. Like it is
yeah.
quite confusing.
It really is. And I think that's why I said, and you said as well, to not try and do everything at once, because it is really important to keep up to date with what's going on in the market and following these trends. So
Mm,
it is good to stay informed. But um, I mean, that's why I think it's really important to invest in marketing as well. I think in the past, marketing was always seen as an aspect in a business to like cut spending on in tough times, and
mm.
it wasn't actually seen as the most important part of the business. And I think it's still changing, and people are getting used to the idea.
Especially organic marketing.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm,
And I think marketing is probably one of the key components of a business. Obviously, the product or service you're providing is really important as well. But how you market it and how you go to market is so important. And yeah, like you said, with organic marketing as well, it's how you're going to get the reach and how you're going to get
mm.
people to actually buy into your brand and hopefully buy your product. So,
Yeah.
definitely worth investing in marketing if you are a new business.
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, I'd love to move on from that into, I guess, your brand as it stands at the moment. So, like, what your business is at the moment. And I think before we hit record, a really interesting thing because we've known each other for like a week or something, 2 weeks now, and I didn't know this about you, but you started the business 2 years ago, but like you were saying, it's only been like the past year where people have actually seen your face, like as the person behind the brand. So I find that really interesting because when it is some like sort of it is just you running this, right? It's just you. Like people want to know what they're getting at the end of the day. So I really want to guess, like, yeah, how was that whole process of starting? Why? What was the decision process behind that? And I guess why did you kind of decide to reveal yourself?
Yeah. So, like I said, I started the business because I saw there was a need for my services or expertise, and so that's why I launched the business. I never did it as a way to get my name out there or to develop my career. It was really just giving a service to someone's needs. But
Mm,
over time, I've realized, and it's something that I tell my clients all the time, is that people don't buy into a product or a service, people buy into people. So, for example, even me being here today with you, I've bought into who you are as a person and your personality and
mm,
your values and who you stand for. And that's why I'm here because I want to support what you're doing, the amazing work you're doing. And that's why I made that shift of focusing on a personal brand, because I felt that the more people get to know who the person is behind the business and the
mm,
values and what I'm trying to achieve, I'm trying to help others like me um, pursue their ideas. I've really seen my engagement blow up. I
mm.
mean, in just 3 months, this was last year during the pandemic, but in 3 months, for example, I grew my Instagram following by 3,000%, um, which is quite a big
Wow,
success for me. I did have quite a low
that's
following to begin
crazy.
with. Yeah. And I've seen that shift because people now know who I am.
Yeah.
And they trust in me. And I think that's really important. So for those of you who are scared to put yourself out there, I'd definitely encourage it.
Yeah, I think that's such an interesting thing that you mentioned because like being the face of a brand doesn't just go for a person who started a marketing agency, right? It goes for literally every brand, like
Yeah,
everywhere. It can go for, a food brand, it can go for like a cosmetics brand, it can go for literally anything. So and that's really interesting that you say your Instagram following like grew massively. And I guess what I would attribute that to is trust and I guess authenticity
yeah,
behind when people can see a face behind something, naturally people trust that brand more and people they see your values a lot more, like why you started that brand, like what are the motivations behind it. And if they are very genuine, if it's not just like, money, you are trying to help people with a similar problem to you, or like you've experienced things and you want to help people, then I think people are really drawn to that. And I guess for people, like for businesses out there who, are quite hesitant of making themselves, the face of the brand, or they really want to make themselves the face of the brand, but they don't really know how to do it in a specific way or like the correct way. What's kind of work for you, and what would you advise to them? And is it even the right step forward?
Yeah, I think it definitely depends on what the business is. For example, restaurants, not necessarily you need to push on the personal brand. Um, but for example, we're in an age where influencers are so big now, especially with fashion
Mm,
brands. And you think people aren't actually buying clothes just because of the way it looks, they're buying it because
mm,
an influencer was worn or seen wearing it.
yeah, yeah,
So I do think that it is really important to do, but it's to know whether that suits your business. And then tips on how to do it. It's really basic, really. I first started by sharing more about who I was, why I started, what fueled me, um,
mm,
to pursue my passion in like graphic design and marketing, how I'm helping people. Just sharing stories like that, I think really helps connect with your audience. So, for example,
stories.
putting that in captions. Another thing that I'm sure you've seen me do is like show up on my stories a lot, um, which is really painful every time because I don't like being on camera. Um, but yeah, doing a quick video on my Instagram story, for example, or doing a reel, these sort of things, I think people get familiarized with your face, and that does help build your personal brand.
Yeah, that's really interesting. So I guess it's around. I know we've discussed this on the podcast before, where we had someone who's kind of grown their following on TikTok really massively, and he said something very similar to you, where it was about stories. That's what people love, and
Yeah,
that storytelling behind, I guess, why you started, what value you're giving, like why, I guess, yeah, the motivations of you as an individual, you as a person, as the face of the brand, like that really connects with people, rather than, I guess, hey everyone, we've got a sale on 20% off and stuff like this. Like that really connects with people, and I guess the lifetime value of your consumers, or of your audience, it maximizes massively because they trust you as a person. So I've definitely seen the results of that just from afar, and I'd love to kind of replicate that with this podcast, or I guess the new brand that I'm starting with Wing. So yeah, I really like that level of advice. I think people, yeah, but how would you know if it's right for your business? Like, I know you said like you need to decide whether it's right for your business, but how do you decide if it is?
um, come talk to me. I think it is important to get a marketing professional's opinion on it, to maybe help steer you in the right direction. Um, but it does depend on the industry you're in, um, the product or service you're providing. Sometimes maybe you don't need to push out your own personal brand, but you
Mm.
collaborate with people, for example, influencers. Um, so it all really depends. I can't give a straight answer to that, but it would be worth speaking to someone who is a marketer, or feel free to drop me a DM. I'd be happy to like look at your brand and give some advice.
Yeah, that's really interesting. So, I guess, like, how do you, I guess, find the time to do all of this stuff? Because I know you're crazy busy, and like 200, you had like over 200 clients before. You must have quite a lot of clients now. So I guess, how do you find the time to like
Oh.
work with everyone?
There aren't enough hours in the day. Um, but I think when you're doing something that you love, it's not an issue. The
Mm,
passion you have fuels you and drives you. Um, my hours are spread thin. I don't have a lot of time, but I make the time, because I really do build those personal connections, with my clients, and I want to see them win.
mm.
So that's what keeps me going, and I mean less sleep is worth it to do that.
But your main focus is on, like, I guess the last sort of segment, but your main focus is on, I guess, organic growth, right? And
Yeah.
or more so to that is content creation. So I guess like where, like, yeah, what do you kind of say to brands who are like focusing on Like, because content at the end of the day, like more of it is better, would you say, or like, or is it more? Because there is a whole battle between like quality or quantity, right?
Yeah.
And to some degree, I would argue, and I know you might disagree with me, but to some degree, I'd probably say quantity is probably better than quality in certain things. Like I do blogging, and I think like if you have a baseline sort of quality, the quantity of it sort of trumps the quality in that sense. Like spending a lot of time on that one blog or that one Instagram post or that one video that you're making isn't worth it because like yeah, I don't know. What's your thought on that?
I would definitely say that quality does matter when it comes to
Mm.
content creation for your business. When looking at content, you want to make sure that you're creating content that builds your brand, that grows your brand, and also sells your brand. So you really want to sort of rotate your content creation around those three things.
Wait,
Um,
say that one more time. So,
content
what were the
to
three things? It was
content
build your brand.
to okay, you try and repeat it.
No, I can't. I just wanted it. So it's build your brand.
Grow your
No, I've
brand
forgotten it. Grow your brand.
and
What
sell.
was the third? Sell your
Sell
brand.
your
Okay,
brand, yeah.
cool.
So something that people tend to do, which is a big no-no, is constantly doing that sales push, constantly trying to sell. um,
Mm,
you don't want to do that. So it's really important to rotate your content. um, Another thing I would say is to have content pillars. So if you have a look at my Instagram, I'm sure Sina will link it. It's
yeah, I
called
will do.
at your artwork service. If you look at my Instagram, for example, I rotate my content. So I create content focused on marketing. So this is stuff like marketing tips and tricks. I do content around motivation. So it's like for starting your own business, for entrepreneurs, that kind of thing. And then I do mindset as well. So, for example, how to reset, how to set new habits, how to set new goals, that kind of thing. So, if
Mm,
you know your pillars and rotate those as well, it keeps your audience engaged. Um,
mm.
yeah.
That's really interesting. So I guess you preset the pillars before. Well, you set the pillars as I guess the foundation of your marketing strategy before you I guess make any content or post anything.
Um, that's the ideal scenario, but if I'm being real with you, that's something that I brought into my marketing strategy
Mm,
quite recently, to be honest.
yeah.
And that's okay because marketing strategies evolve, um, business evolves, everything is always evolving. So you just have to make
Mm,
sure that you're evolving too with the changes that are happening. So if you're not doing that already, it's okay. You can start doing it now. Um,
yeah.
so yeah, those are the tips I'd give. So quality is really important. Just going back to your point,
Yeah.
um, and I know a lot of people out there in marketing also say post 5 times a day and that kind of thing. I mean, don't try to overdo it. I would probably say at least post once daily, if you really are focused on growing your following. But I think nowadays a lot of people are focused on the wrong thing. It's not about how many followers you have. So you really need to understand for your business what you're trying to achieve because you don't need hundreds and thousands of followers to get sales. If you picture
Mm,
100 people in a room and you're selling to them, that's a lot of people that are going to buy your product or listen
yeah.
to your podcast or use your service. So it's really not a numbers game at all. You have to know whether you're trying to grow your engagement, if you're trying to grow your following, um, or if you're trying to make sales, and then align accordingly.
I think that's a really like yeah, I really love that I guess last bit that you just mentioned. I guess like it's not all about followers, it depends I guess what your overall goal is. And yeah, I think that was really good advice. And I think any question I ask will probably kind of take the shadow away, take the light away from that. So yeah, Yaz, I'd love to kind of wrap it up there. It's been such a pleasure talking to you. I think it went really quickly, but
Yeah.
yeah, it was such a pleasure having you on. And I guess like last question before I give you the chance to guess, you know, bring people to your Instagram or whatever, what's kind of like the next step for you? Like, what are the kind of goals for your marketing brand going forward?
Um, my plan going forward is just to continue to meet young entrepreneurs and
Mm,
hear their ideas and help grow and make their dreams a reality. I want to continue to do what I'm doing and just hopefully impact and help more people. That's just the general vision I have. I will be launching some other elements to my services down the line,
mm.
but they're still in the works now. Yeah.
That's really exciting. So how can people stay in touch with that? Stay in touch with like all the new projects that you're doing?
Yeah, sure. So I'm most active on Instagram. So if you're on there, feel free to give me a follow. I'd love to connect with you and drop me a DM. Please don't be shy. I love talking and meeting new people. Um, my Instagram's your artwork service, and on there is a link that goes to my website as well if you're interested in my services. I specialize in branding, social media, and web design. So anything under that umbrella, feel free to reach out.
Okay, sweet. Yeah, thank you so much, Yaz. I'll link all of that in the description, anyways. If any of you guys want to give Yaz a follow, please do because like the content is really engaged. Like it's genuinely
Thank
like
you.
yeah, it's just very. There's a very big variety which I really enjoy. That's something that I should probably do for my one. But yeah, that's another matter. But yeah, thank you so much for coming on the podcast again. And yeah, I really hope to see you soon. Thanks for coming on.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me.